Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. We're really happy that you're here for this workshop on designing a faculty website on WordPress and making it work for you. My name is Chris Benner. I'm the faculty director of the Institute for Social Transformation. And we're really happy to be the sponsor of this workshop today. For those who don't know, hopefully most of you do, the mission of the Institute for Social Transformation is really helping connect scholarship on campus with the broader world beyond campus and helping to maximize the impact of research and scholarship going on campus and building those relationships and connections. So we're really happy to be able to offer this workshop. It's the second one we've done on communications for faculty. We had a workshop on using Twitter and developing your Twitter presence. There's a recording of that on our website. And we're open to doing other workshops. So please be in touch with us about things that you'd like to see or things you'd like us to focus on. Just a little bit of housekeeping. We will have an opportunity for questions, Q&A. The chat is active, but you won't see it. But that's the place to submit your questions. So put your questions in the chat box as we're going through. They'll go to the host. There's 3 or 4 of us that are hosts, and we'll look at those and get to the questions at the end. And then also, just as a reminder, we are recording this session so we can have it as a permanent resource on the website. So just be aware that we're recording everything. And then without further ado, I want to introduce the people who are the core of the workshop today. Jason Chafin is a banana slug. He graduated from UC Santa Cruz in '93 with a bachelor's in environmental studies. And he's been with University Relations as the senior web developer in the communications and marketing department since 2017, so a tremendous resource. Allison Sorgel is the public information representative for the social sciences division at UC Santa Cruz, and her work is really focused on building relationships between faculty and journalists, as well as writing articles about the impact of research and sharing faculty insights and expertise. She's got more than a decade of experience in journalism, media relations, advocacy-based public engagement. So yeah, if you have research coming out that you think is important, newsworthy, please be in touch with Allison about that work, because she'll want to know about it and could write about it and help connect you to journalists who'd be interested. And then finally, Andrea Lemus is the Assistant Director of Marketing Communications for the Division of Social Sciences. She has over 10 years of digital marketing and communications experience, worked in a variety of different industries, from tech startups to higher education. She also, as a banana slug, received her bachelor's degree in literature and politics from UC Santa Cruz. I guess we're all banana slugs, but just to say that Andrea and Jason both have their degrees from Santa Cruz as well. So without further ado, Andrea, I'll turn it over to you to briefly give an overview of what we're going to be doing today.
Thanks, Chris. So one of our goals today is just to make sure that you all, as faculty and some grad students, are aware that UC Santa Cruz provides this free access to WordPress. You can find this via sites.ucsc.edu. Today, we will walk through best practices and what to consider when making your UCSC faculty website. We'll also explore how journalists use websites to connect with you and how you can optimize your online presence to gain exposure for your work. So one of my roles here at UC Santa Cruz as the Assistant Director of Marketing Communications is to guide units in the SocSci division on their messaging and branding in order to amplify their research and their reputation. So I'm going to walk you through some strategies and questions to ask yourself when launching a new digital platform, such as your faculty website. First, I want you all to take a minute to think about or write these down. What is your goal with your digital presence and your faculty website? Who is your target audience? So you might have many audiences. That might be media, which we'll cover a lot today. It might be students, it might be partnerships, but really focusing on one main audience and targeting your presence and your messaging to them is really key when building out your digital presence. I'd also like you to consider what your current digital presence looks like. Is that helping you achieve your goal, or is it hurting you? Do you need to make any changes? So just think about these as we go through today. So what to consider when creating these platforms or refreshing them? We, again, want to define the audience. So who are you writing for? It is not yourself, it is your readers and your audience. So defining your audience will help you set the tone of your site's content. A website should also not be your filing cabinet. It shouldn't be for you to just kind of store things on. You really need to consider what your audience is looking for and make that easy for them to find. So we really want to help guide our audience via our navigation, our website navigation, to really bring them through a pathway on our website for them to find your content in the most effective and meaningful way that will really keep them there and keep them interested in your work. Just some keys to think about when building your digital presence. So this is true on social media as well as your websites. So you want to have a brief bio. This is a short and personal statement. It's not your life's work. It's a few sentences that brings the audience in, tells them quickly who you are and what you do, and tells them why they want to connect with you. We'll go through your bio more today. I will give you some exercises on how to really cut that down. We also want to see your photo, so there needs to be a human behind this work. It's great to quickly list your areas of expertise for your audience to quickly see what you're an expert in. Also to link to your other professional digital channels. So this could be social media, this could be back to the UC Santa Cruz website, but you want to give a well-rounded version of you and your work so people can go explore on other channels as well. If appropriate, list your key partnerships. And if you have videos highlighting your work, that might be through the UC Santa Cruz video team or anything highlighting your research or projects, you want to have those available to digest on your website as well. And then links to any relevant articles or publications. Also, don't forget to have a focus, be consistent, be genuine in yourself, kind of create a persona that your audience wants to engage, partner with, and connect with, reach out to, and tell a story. If you know people in your field doing this successfully, see what they're doing, what can you learn from them, and then put into practice on your digital channels. So I promised I would let you know the recipe for that short bio. And usually this is a much more in-depth session where we would all write them, evaluate, it'd be a lot to learn, but I want to give you this exercise that you can take home tonight and create for yourself in your own time. So when writing your personal elevator pitch, you want to think of these three things. What differentiates you from others? How does your uniqueness add value? What do you want to be known for? What do you want to tell your audience about yourself? So what are the distinctive areas or qualities that really define your approach to your work? So here's a quick recipe you can use when creating, I like to call it an extended tweet. So you only have a limited amount of time usually to grab a new audience's attention. So we want it to be quick, we want it to be engaging, and we really want it to be the essence of you and your work. So your personal elevator pitch, a great formula for this could be, I am, that tells us who you are, give us your title. I help, who do you add value to? So this would be your audience. Understand or do, how do you add value to your audience? What do you help them accomplish? So that, And this is the type of impact or transformation that your audience should expect to receive. So this is super formulaic. I understand that this won't fit into everybody's essence, but it's a really great model to follow. So I'll just give you an example of what mine might be, my personal elevator pitch. I am a digital marketing professional supporting the mission of public higher ed. I help prospective students, faculty, donors understand the impact of research at UC Santa Cruz. I ensure our campus character and vision are clearly communicated so that the campus can continue to elevate its reputation. So I'll show you a few examples. Again, I understand this is super formulaic, but it's a really good exercise to try to work into your personal statement. So here's an example from Jessica Taft, and she almost follows this example completely. I'm a professor of Latin American Latino studies. My research focuses on political lives. She tells us who her audience is, and then more specifically what her impact is. And also she writes 2 books. So 4 sentences really gets to the point of her work. And then the rest of her website illustrates it more deeply. Another example, this is not in the format that I shared, but it is just 4 quick sentences telling us the essence of Phil's work. And the last sentence is his audience and the impact. So he's conducted research with several communities experiencing social injustice. I love here that he also has his title, his photo right there. It's very grabbing and short. And then 2 quick buttons if you, after we've been completely grabbed by his 4 short sentences, we can click through to get his full CV or his full biography. So these are 2 really great examples that you can use. And I will pass it to Allison.
Hey everyone, I'm Allison. As Chris mentioned, I work on media relations. So I'm going to talk a little bit about journalists as a potential audience for your websites. And media coverage in general can be a great way to advance the impact of your research, because ideally it's helping you get your work in front of the right people at the right time to really make it a part of public discourse and hopefully to inform decision-making processes as well. And so public information officers like myself, typically every division has one that they can work with. We like to work with researchers and faculty members to proactively make connections between you and members of the media and facilitate those interactions. But if you design your website well, you can actually get some of these interactions happening organically too, because you can build your website to help journalists be able to find and notice you on the internet. So we'll talk a little bit about that. And ideally, if you do get some of those organic interactions happening with journalists, it's always a great idea to loop your public information officer in on that too. We can always help you vet media requests if you get one that you're not sure about. And the other thing that we'll do is we'll help to track and monitor that media coverage and be able to share it out and enhance the impact of that as well. So I'll talk a little bit about some of the ways that you can make your site journalist friendly. So the first thing is really kind of understanding what types of information journalists need from your website and designing your website so that it's really easy for them to get to that. So journalists are always working on pretty tight deadlines, and they're also choosing from a wide variety of experts on any given topic. So one of the things that we definitely want to do is kind of be respectful of their time and not make them dig for key information. So typically what they're needing is a way to really quickly assess your areas of expertise, because they'll be looking for something on a particular topic. And then if they do decide you're the right fit for whatever their article they're working on, then they need to be able to contact you easily. So this type of information, your name, your title, your areas of expertise and contact information is things that we want to be able to display prominently on the website to make it easier for them. So I have a few examples of how that might look on your website. So Juan's website is a great example of having this information right on a homepage in a way that's really succinct. You can easily tell areas of expertise that you might be able to speak to, His contact information is right there, along with his name and title. Another really great way to make this info accessible is actually through your navigation bar. So you can see in the upper right-hand corner, it's got a really easy contact tab right there so that you can easily get to that page from anywhere in the site. And then on the next slide, there's another example of how you might be able to do this. So the header section of the website right at the top, depending on what type of theme you use for your website, some of those, the header is like a pretty big graphic element, either photos or just interesting graphics up there. So you can actually kind of use that design area, sort of like a business card, and incorporate some of that key information into that section. Or down at the very bottom is the footer element, and you can put some of that key info, like maybe your contact information there as well. The thing that can be valuable about having some of this stuff in either a header or a footer is that it's then accessible from anywhere someone enters your website, because it may not always be the home page. We'll talk a little bit more about how to drive organic search to your websites. And that may cause someone to come in and to find your website on a page that's not your home page. But also, again, we talked about navigation tabs. That's a good way to make that, that key information accessible from anywhere in your website as well. So let's talk about another type of content that you'll want to make accessible for journalists, and that's content that helps to demonstrate your media savvy. So if you have some good examples of prior news coverage, it's always great to include that on your website, because when journalists are looking for, they're kind of constantly on the internet looking for new ideas for stories, new exciting research that they might be able to report on, or experts on particular topics. And when they're looking for experts, they're wanting someone who has not only the research and knowledge background, but also good communication skills, someone who is going to perform well on camera, or someone who's going to be able to generate good quotes for an article. So when you're sharing examples of prior media coverage, you're actually able to demonstrate through that you do have the types of communication skills that journalists are looking for. So they know they're going to be able to get what they need from that interaction with you. The other thing that's valuable about sharing prior media coverage is that it demonstrates that you're in demand as an expert. And we do know that journalists do pay attention to that, because we see a little bit of like a credibility snowball effect that happens when someone gets prior prominent media coverage. It makes them even more in demand, and they start to get more requests for expertise on that topic. So it's helpful to kind of, get yourself out there in that element too. And you want to make sure that you're sharing good examples of multimedia too, if you have them. So again, folks can see what you're like on camera or in like a audio radio interview as well. So I'll show some examples of what this might look like on your website. So you can do this in either a really simple way, or you can get more stylized with it. At the very top is an example of just including, like basic text on one of your web pages with a link out to media coverage. Down at the bottom is an example of how you might embed like a video or a multimedia feature. And then on the left and in the middle on the right are kind of more stylized examples that you can get into if you use a WordPress feature called Widgets. It allows you to kind of create like more stylized content groupings on your websites. So you can either do this simply, or you can get a little bit more fancy with it. And if you have room on your website, something that's good to do is kind of describe your role a little bit alongside where you're listing the name of the article and the link out. Or if you have space, it's always good to highlight like pull out an actual quote from an article too, because that's the information that journalists are going to be looking for. So it's always good to make that accessible. And then we'll move on to the next topic. So talking about how to help journalists find you from the internet, they're out there searching for ideas and experts. And really what we want to be thinking about is on the particular topic that you're working in, what are going to be the common search terms that they might be using to try and find information? And a good way to help drive people to your site is to kind of think about this concept of search engine optimization. And kind of the opposite of good search engine optimization is jargon. And unfortunately, paper titles do tend to be kind of full of jargon. So one thing I recommend is if you have the space for some of your key papers or key projects, I recommend, in addition to including like the title of the project and a link out to it, try to also include like a really succinct summary of what the findings were or what the goals of the project were, that's written in plain text and that actually says what you found. And ideally thinking about those terms that people might be using in search bars to try and find this content. So this will drive people to your website in a way that just listing the title of the article might not. So we always want to be thinking about those search terms. And I'll provide an example on the next slide of how you might be able to do that. So this, again, you can either get really fancy with it or you can keep it kind of simple. So at the top is an example of, see, like typically listing the title of the paper and linking out, but then also under it, including just a really quick description of what the goals of the paper were, what it's working to accomplish, that's written in more plain language. And that includes some of the information about it that might help to drive that search engine traffic. And then below that on the right-hand side is an example of kind of including that summary along with a photo, if you have one that might be relevant. And then on the left is a more stylized example of using kind of some of those widget features. And you can see the summary there includes what some of the actual findings were. So if people are looking for information, that might help to drive that search traffic. And then I have one more key concept for you all, which as you're starting to get excited about either building a website or improving your website, it might be tempting to forget about directory profiles that we have through the university, but those are also really important. So I want to recommend not just linking out to your website, because there is some value to having some information in both places on your directory profile and also in your faculty website. The reason for that is directory profiles are actually used pretty extensively by both journalists and public information officers, because they actually offer some features when it comes to finding experts in terms of like being able to compare among experts within the university that you can't get from the faculty website alone. So in particular, some things I want to recommend that folks keep up to date is publications. We'll talk a little bit more about why that's important, as well as areas of expertise in particular, because those are actually searchable keywords that people can use in the directory when they come there looking for experts. So I'll show some examples on the next slide. So one of my favorite things is when departments list their faculty members, like you'll see on the left-hand side, alongside the keywords for their areas of expertise. Because for both public information officers and journalists, this makes it super easy to be able to like scan through a department's faculty members when you're looking for expertise on a particular topic and be able to quickly identify how to route that request. So this is also why keeping your key publications up to date becomes important. Because when you have two experts that might have similar or the same keywords, like we can see both experts here have expertise in United States politics, then what a journalist or public information officer will do is actually look closer at the publications and use those to be able to kind of narrow the field. So if I had a request about the history of the Senate, I could look at Dan's publications here and see that that would be a good way to route that request. And then on the right-hand side is an example of that directory that is searchable by keywords. So this is a great tool for journalists. We do get requests from journalists where they're looking specifically for someone, an expert from UC Santa Cruz. And so this allows them to just like put search terms into the directory and it pulls up the experts on that particular topic. So you can see Judith's profile is appearing here because she has tagged herself to mathematics education. So if you want those opportunities to be able to come in through the directory profile, definitely make sure you're taking advantage of those keyword tags as well. And those are some of those key ideas to help make your website and directory profiles good for journalists. And I will hand it over to Jason. You're muted, Jason.
All right, let's start over. Everybody hear me? I'm going to give you a brief overview of WordPress, how to select a theme, how to create content, what a widget is and where they go. But first, I want to give a little bit of kind of an overview about the process of creating content, and discuss some areas where you as the user can implement some good functional design. Next slide. So content is king. The reason that I titled this slide "Content is King" is because this is, as a web developer, is a mantra that is always in the back of my head whenever I'm designing or kind of doing site architecture, organizing my content. And the reason that this is a mantra is, myself included, when I first started out developing websites, it's really fun, and I just put all kinds of widgets and gadgets and all kinds of doohickeys on my sites, and I thought they were really cool, but they were definitely not usable. So I want to kind of reiterate that you're designing or you're developing for your reader, not necessarily you. And the second point I would bring up is to choose a theme that's mobile first. Now, most of the themes that we offer here on the University WordPress install are, but I just did a little bit of research this morning, and not all of them. And I'll point that out in a minute. But I like this tidbit that I've come up since 2016. Most of mobile internet use has passed desktop use for the first time. So that means that the chances are higher that the first time somebody is going to be encountering your content on your website, it'll likely be via a mobile device such as a smartphone or a tablet. So just keep that in mind. And finally, get an outside opinion. Ask a colleague or a friend to see if they think that your site is usable, workable. And that kind of dovetails into my next slide, which is design. And I put design in quotes here because I'm talking about functional design and not artistic design. As a public university, we have to abide by the Americans with Disabilities Act, and in web design that comes in as they call that accessibility. And we have a lot of users that are both entirely blind or maybe colorblind, or maybe they use a screen reader because they've got carpal tunnel issues, which includes yours truly. And so there are functional design things that you can do as a content creator that assists that. One of the things, try to avoid incorrect color usage, and there are actually resources on the internet that you can test colors on a website. Avoid, try to have good, solid navigation bars on your site so that the users know exactly where to go and where you're going. And to that extent, try to avoid many hierarchical menus, sub-menus with sub-menus and sub-menus, because it's too many clicks for a user to go through. And also, it doesn't. Screen readers don't like that. Confusing typography is kind of fold. First off, try to stick to maybe 2 fonts. Some of the themes will offer multiple font choices when you're kind of setting it up, and try to stick to maybe 1 font for a heading, maybe a serif font, or maybe a sans serif font for your copy text. And another confusing typography element is try to use proper heading tags when you're writing your content. If it's a different section, use an H1 or an H2. I'll show you in the demo. Creating content is very much like using a word processor. And so, if it's a paragraph, use the paragraph format. If it's a heading, use a heading 1, 2, 3, depending on your hierarchy. And that's also because screen readers depend on that hierarchy to properly display your content to people who might be using them, who might not actually see them. I work with a lot of writers, and a lot of our writers in WCMS, they'll just, like, when they come to a next section, they'll just do a bold paragraph as a heading. And our team is constantly trying to undo those because they do mess up screen readers. So I just want to, these are just pointers to kind of keep in mind in the back of your head when you're kind of working on your site. And with that, I will take over from screen sharing to show the demo here. So if you go to sites.ucsc.edu, this is the splash screen. And just even right on the front of the splash screen, you've got some resources for getting started. What is a faculty WordPress? And I think there has been a link from here in the chat. This content here was developed by us at UC Santa Cruz. Anybody with an @ucsc.edu email account can sign into a site. Just use your gold account, and it'll step you through creating a site. I've already done that, and I've got this test site here. And once you finish creating your site, it'll go straight to your dashboard. Now this is the interior of WordPress. If anybody's WordPress is pretty basic. So many of you might already be familiar with it. This is the overview. Over on the left here in this dark area, that's all of your menu options. And I'm going to go through a few things, but the first thing I want to point out is that every WordPress site here has this section called video tutorials. And if you go here, you can see how the topic areas are organized very similar to the sidebar items. So if you want to learn more about the dashboard, click here. Of course, I'm hicking up. There we go. And the video will show right up in the dashboard, and a couple-minute tutorial about whatever it is you want to learn. So I just wanted to point out that I'm going to give you, this is an overview. This is here as a resource for some more in-depth demos. The first area that I'd like to kind of highlight here is the appearance area. And the appearance area gives you some sub items: themes, customize, widgets, menus. I'm going to show you about themes. So these are all the themes that you have to choose from in the sites. This is kind of like a walled garden. You can't upload your own themes like you might be able to on your own hosting, but these themes have been vetted for things like usability and the like. There are different types of themes, so you might go through and based on your content, choose a theme. But remember when I said choose a mobile first theme, you'll notice you can filter the different types of themes across the top here. And the site offers 374 themes, but if you want to filter down to mobile friendly, it drops by 24. So at least 24 themes in here are not mobile friendly. So just keep that in mind. Accessibility ready is another one of those accessibility. Now they're only, but you'll notice that some themes they show up in different areas. If you want to know a little bit more about a theme, you can always hover over it and click this theme details, and it'll give you a little bit more information about the theme. You can see this one is mobile friendly. It's accessibility ready. It's got a left sidebar, a right sidebar, certain items. So you can kind of get some information about the theme that you're thinking about using before you activate it. And even before you activate it, which is what happened if you push here, you can go into the live preview and kind of see how it might work. I'm going to not do that. I've chosen this affinity theme. So I'm going to stick with that for the rest of but just so you know, there are a lot of themes out there. Try a few out. Allison mentioned widgets, so that's the next area that I'm going to focus on here. All themes will give some sidebar or widget area or bucket into which you can place widgets. And when you go to the widget screen here, it's kind of divided in half, left and right. On the left-hand side are the widgets themselves, and on the right-hand side are the buckets or the widget areas that you can drag them into. And you can drag and drop. You can reorder them, so it's really slick. You can, add, expand them, and also each widget itself has expandable areas where you can fill in more information. So this particular theme has one sidebar and 3 footer widgets. but different themes will include different types of widgets, and so that's where you might look at the hover over the details area before you add to see what kind of widgets. And before I go on, I'll just show you what the front end of this looks like with the widgets. So this is the theme that I've chosen. I don't have a sidebar widget because it's the front page, but here is where those 1, 2, 3 footer widgets would show up. And this is where you could put some of the information that Allison was talking about, it should you choose in this theme to utilize that. Some of them have header widgets. So again, explore the widget area. Explore the themes in the themes to see what they have as you go to test. I'll go back to the dashboard. Briefly, I will talk about plugins. Plugins also add functionality. Again, walled garden, you can't upload your own plugins, but there are at least 60 different plugins that provide different functionality to your site. If you wanted to add your Google Calendar to your site, there's a plugin for that. I haven't gone through all of these, but you just might peruse those and see if there's anything else. If there's something you like, you activate it, and you get additional settings to set up and things like that. Next area, I'd like to talk about the media library. You got a media library. Most people think of the media library as just images, but you can upload MP3s, you can upload PDFs, you can upload, pings, JPEGs, any type of media, and then embed them into your content. You can access the media library just like this, or I'll show you can also access it when you're creating a post, which is my next area. You'll notice on the left here, there's an area for posts and an area for pages. WordPress was originally developed as a blogging software, and so posts are differentiated from pages in that they're serialized, usually reverse chronological. Most of us know what a blog is, read blogs or whatever. That's what the post area is. For most of your content, I'm guessing that you are going to be using static pages. Your about page, your personal statement, your things of that nature. So most of you will want to stick to the pages, but I can show you, you can have both. Like I was mentioning earlier, the editing experience is very word processor like. Microsoft Word, Google Docs. You've got your icons here that you can format. Again, if you wanted to add an image, you could actually go to your media library, or you could upload an image from your desktop or something straight from within your editing environment. Right here is what I wanted to point out about the difference between a paragraph text and a heading 1, 2, and 3. So just I wanted to, it's really easy. It's very, very Microsoft Wordy. If you got a heading, use the heading. And typically the title will be a heading 1. So if you're writing content, it's best to start in your content with the heading 2, and then 3, 4. The next thing I'd like, and so over here is some more meta area, and again, certain themes will have different templates, and so you can apply different templates to your pages depending on what you want to show. This one is just the default template, which is has the right sidebar, but I could make it a full width, and when I showed you earlier in the hovering over get the theme details, if you read, that's where you can find that information will be there. Different templates are available for that theme. And finally, I want to point out the featured image. The featured image sometimes is used on the front page or on the front end of the post, and sometimes it isn't. On this theme, it happens to be. But the featured image is also will become the thumbnail that would accompany your post or your page if it were to get shared on Facebook or Twitter or LinkedIn. You've seen the little thumbnail. That's what, in WordPress, in order to make that happen, you add a featured image to it. On this particular theme, the featured image is also used, hang on, as the banner image. And just again, this is the sidebar template. So back in the widget areas, this is the sidebar widget area where I've put the different widgets, and that's how it looks. So, editing, the editing experience in WordPress is, like, again, very, very WordPressy, or I'm sorry, word processory. You can add captions, you can center, left, right. You can also enlarge an image, drag and drop it, so it's very, very slick in that regard. You can preview changes, etc. And posts just are exactly the same. It's pretty much exactly the same way. It's the same editing experience. Same what you see is what you get. WYSIWYG interface. So it's but these would be the serialized posts, which gets me to my next area of sort of discussion here are the settings. And there are a bunch of options here, but there are a couple I want to just point out. First of all, the general settings. So this is where you could, create your site title. They call it a tagline, but it's like the subtitle, and you can set your time zone and things like that. Writing is for posts. So if you're writing a lot of posts, that's where you set up these types of it's not necessarily for the pages. This is more for the posts. What I want to point out here is the reading section. In the reading section, this is where you sort of choose whether you want the front page of your blog to be a static home page or your latest posts. If it's your latest post, you'll see is a list of all your recent posts. I've set this up as a static page, and so I click the button that says static page, and I choose an actual page for my static page. I've called one front. If I wanted a posts page, I could select. So my blog post page would be on the sample page. My home page would be on the front page. So that's just the way that you can switch between the static page and the home or the blog page. I typically always do static page just because this is a professional WordPress. But the final thing that I would like to point out is this site visibility section. I can't remember if it's turned on or turned off by default, but I would, while you're building your site, I would encourage you to click the discourage search engines from indexing this site, because it might take a week or so to get all your stuff, and you're building it, and you don't want Google to be indexing your half-built content, particularly if this is a professional website. That doesn't look very professional when you're half-built. So I always tick the discourage search engines from indexing this site section while I'm building the site, and then once I go live, I will click the allow search engines to index the site, and it takes a couple of days for the bots to to get into it. But yeah, you don't want your half-built page to end up on search results. And finally, I'm just to do an overview of menus. And like a lot of WordPress, menus are drag and drop. You build them from your pages, and you place them in a location. This theme has one location. It's called top, and that's the nav menu. But I could create multiple menus to put in there. I could have a backup menu. And so in the menus area, you can again, just like everything else, draggy, droppy. You name your menu, build it out, save it. Then you place it. Primary. Save changes. Always save changes. The blue button. And I'm telling you this because I frequently miss this. And then you're going to go and there's your menu. and there are various menu options. You can this menu is composed of a custom link. You could link out to like your LinkedIn page or your directory. This is the hello world post, and this is a page. So I've put 3 separate content types in this one menu just to illustrate that it's possible. And I think that's pretty much the overview that I was I had prepared. Again, I want to just reiterate the video tutorials section. Oh, I don't. Yeah, I'll leave. The video tutorials section. This is a really great resource for spend a little time looking here, getting up and running, and yeah, that's WordPress 101. I think we might have some time for some questions, or if there's one thing I forgot to mention is that the UC my team and the IT department are in the process of building out the UC Santa Cruz new WCMS replacement, and it's going to be another version of this exact setup, a little bit faster, a little bit better, but for you faculty and staff and everybody who are in WCMS on a regular basis, in about a year, the user interface is going to look just like this. And so if you're not familiar with WordPress, you might just start a site, keep the discourage bots from scrolling it, and just get your feet wet a little bit, explore some things, try out different themes, and as you're thinking about your content that both Andrea and Allison were talking to, think about that as you're choosing your theme, which I should. As you're scrolling through the thing, kind of think about the content is king. What you're make sure it's mobile, accessible, and try find one appropriate for you. And I think we've got about 10 minutes left for questions if we need to.
Yeah, I think, can you see my screen?
Here, I'm going to stop sharing here now. There we go.
So you can see my screen?
Yep.
So I did want to share some resources for everyone. Obviously, we're not going to become web designers in an hour. So what's really helpful, again, is that video tutorial section, which you can find on your dashboard when you log into your WordPress site. Me personally, as someone who is not building websites every single day, every time I go to make a menu, I pull up the how-to and I just follow along. It's really helpful. So if you're just in here building a website every few months, every once in a while, just go to the video tutorial section. You will find everything you need to build a website, and you can follow along with these tutorials. Some other resources. It's the WordPress faculty site. You can find it there at sites.ucsc.edu. Again, the web accessibility. This is a UC priority and also Chancellor Larive priority, that everything that UC Santa Cruz does is accessible for everyone. So there is a great webinar that I linked here, and that was done by UCOP. And then other accessibility resources to make sure that everyone is able to view your content. And then I've pulled out some, let's see, this is Campus Press, which is a hosting site that gives the site.ucsc a lot of 24-hour help. So again, when you go to these pages, you'll see a bunch of different help buckets, but I pulled out a few that might help you getting started with choosing your theme, changing your themes if you want to migrate to a new theme, you don't like what you're currently on, some breakdown on post versus pages, and then just the general help buckets. And then I just want to let you know that there is a website source called Site Improve. And this is ITS and the communications and marketing team that will be auto scanning your websites if you choose to use the sites.ucsc.edu. So this is another great reason to be on there versus, you know, going to Squarespace or somewhere else, because they will auto scan your site and improve it when needed. So you don't have to do anything, but when your website is hosted there, it'll automatically get updates. With that, we have a few questions from the audience. And this one's for Jason. So we are confused by the discourage Google from indexing your page. How can Google see the site before it is live?
Well, if you can see the site on the front end, Google can see the site. Typically, like, so what Google does, they're called bots, and they crawl the back end of the site or the actual code of the site. So while you're building the site, you know, you do some changes, you check out the front end, you do some changes, you see how it looks. Your site is live right now. You can interact with it, you can access it. But if you have the discourage bots, then that tells Google, hey, we're still working on this site. Don't index this, and don't put any of this content into Google search engine results pages. That's what that means. Yeah, you can still work on it. You can still see it on the front end, but it's, you know, Bing and all of them they crawl sites with bots, and so you can puts a little tag that says, sorry, this one's not ready yet. Don't crawl it yet. Don't use any of this information for somebody else's web search results. Does that help?
Yeah. Okay, so there are a lot of questions about having staff people help faculty create their web page. Currently, there is no dedicated staff person from ITS as far as we could figure in our research for this workshop. That said, I've heard talk that when we transfer from WCMS to WordPress, the campus website, that there might be some more folks who are just dedicated instead of WCMS are dedicated more to WordPress in general, and there might be a few more faculty resources for this. It's also always possible to hire a student or a grad student to help you build your website and get started. Jason, do you have anything to follow up with?
That's about it. You know, as we do roll out the new site, next fall is kind of the Jello on the wall date. We're definitely going to be having to develop resources for both faculty and staff. Now, fortunately, WordPress powers more websites in the world than anything else. So a lot of people are already familiar with it. But we are going to be developing, you know, resources for rollout in that. So at that time, but you know, we got to build the site first. And you know, since it's a new it will be a new instance, there are IT folks that need to also get kind of up to speed on what's going on as well. So we are like hamsters in the little running wheel right now, trying to do that for you guys.
Yes, and if we find a lot of specific questions or topics that you all are interested in the Institute for Social Transformation is committed to doing this workshop series that is for faculty members and to help faculty with their communication tools. So definitely send in any requests for more workshops like this. We are dedicated to helping faculty get up and running on these communication tools.
I do want to just wrap us up because we are at end of time, and be respectful of all your time. But thank you all for coming for this. We hope it's useful. Please give us feedback about the kind of things that would be also useful going forward, other types of workshops or things that would be helpful. The easiest email is transform@ucsc.edu. That goes to our Director of Operations, Evan Knight, who's here with us today. And I just wanted to thank her for all her work as well. And again, thank Andrea and Allison and Jason for all your help and support. And you can reach out to them directly with specific questions. Hopefully they'll have some time to answer as well. We also have the recording from the previous workshop on how to use Twitter. And I'll pop that in the chat, that if you want to go look at that, it's there to learn about Twitter. And with that, I think we'll let you all go to the rest of your day. And thank you again for joining us.